Hello and welcome. We're back. It's Transform Your Relationships. Yes, live. Hi, Dr. Roberta. How are you?
Hello, Laura. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I can tell. That's a very enthusiastic welcome to everybody. We've been away for a month, so we're super excited to be back with you and together again to create a new topic. So, what is it today?
Today, we're talking about the power of kindness. Kindness. I think we get stressed and we lose that. And if we can just make a practice of kindness, our whole life would transform. Our whole world would be that much better. So I'm on a mission of kindness here.
Okay, well, that sounds like a really good plan for all of us because you don't lose anything by being kind. It's an interesting thing that, that whole thing that you don't lose your light by lighting someone else's candle.
Mhm.
Well, the same thing is true of love and kindness and, treating people with compassion. We can be kind, or we can be nasty, or we can be short, or we can be resentful, or we can be delightful, or we can be loving. And it's all a big choice. And many times all we're doing is reacting to other people rather than responding from who we are.
Yeah, and what we want and what our heart of hearts really thinks about. And um, I was just recently taking care of a family member in the hospital, and or the hospital, the nurses and doctors were, and I was trying to assist and help him out. And there were team members there wearing, staff wearing T-shirts that said "Team Kindness," and I was like, I wonder what that's all about. But all I know is that every time I asked for something or was talking to somebody, they couldn't do enough. They were always a yes in one way, shape, or form, and they were always nice about it. It was like my pleasure. They had these key phrases that were just so helpful. Like, now that I think back upon it, it just made the stay there very neutral to positive. It's really hard to stay really positive in a hospital. And these people do it 24/7. I mean, they're like, sure, I can get that. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. How can I help you? My pleasure. Absolutely. No problem. If I said, I'm sorry about that, or I don't mean to be a pest, no problem. This is what we're here for. We deal with this every day. That's fine. Do you want me to help you with that? Can I, even if they had to tend to another patient, it was like, I'll be right with you. Like they made eye contact. And there are certain things they're just either trained or like this whole staff was really up on.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because what it is to me as I'm listening to you is it was reassuring to you. Like they care. And kindness is like that. And I had an example too that I'll just throw into the mix as we're talking about that. I made a huge goof up. I was recording a webinar yesterday for an evergreen webinar that we're doing, and it's about how to recognize dangerous people in the workplace. So, really excited about it. We got on, we did the whole webinar. Guess who failed to push record?
Oh, I've done that too many times too.
Right. This is second time. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so distressed about this because I'm usually the techie one. So for me to not be able to deliver the goods and have to say, mea culpa, didn't capture that. And she immediately wrote back and said, I'm no diva, honey. No worries. We'll do it again. Like that was kind.
Super
No,
kind.
no judgment, no nothing, just oh. And I think that's something to strive for. I strive for that in my life. Let's be present, not focused on the past, not what happened yesterday or didn't happen yesterday, but what can I do about it right now? What can I say about it right now that would be present and reassuring, kind, moving the relationship forward, focused on what it is you want to be conveying. Like that's what I hear in the story you're telling me about the hospital. You look at all these people and they're all these skills and they're rushing around and they got so many people and so many pressures and so many demands and so many have tos. And yet they've decided to make a culture of kindness. What if every one of us did that?
Yeah. And what I realized is, to them, this is every day in terms
Right.
of, they know they're going to do the job. They're going to get it done. Why can't I? They could just be like, why can't I, these patients just understand we're going to get the job done. That could be the attitude, which
Right.
I'm sure in the past has people have experienced. But what I realized thinking is the way they're treating me is the way I feel. I feel like my family member's life is in their hands. And I don't know if I can trust them. But
Right.
every time, like you said, they reassured me with their kindness. It was so
Mhm.
reassuring. It was like they get that this is a life altering,
Moment.
experience for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in every moment, they're like treating me with kid gloves. Like I am they get that I'm in a sensitive place. They get that the patient's in an emotionally sensitive place, and that's part of their overall care. And if we took care with each other like that, like you said, it would transform our world because typically people are in emotionally sensitive places. Let's just, get right down to it.
And we
Um,
never know what's going on with another human. I
yeah.
mean, you can speak to someone for 2 seconds and then you say something and like, what? Because you don't know what state they're in. You don't know what they just came from. And we don't spend enough time honoring what I call the transitions in life, like to go from one thing to another, to be working at your desk and then have a conversation. Do you bring what you were doing and the frustrations of that to the conversation? Maybe, maybe not. But if we take a little moment to create a transition, like how's your day going, is a transition in that situation. So the person can tell you, oh, this most awful thing just happened and everything blew up. And okay, now I know what it's about. I don't have to wonder. I know it's not me because I just got on the phone. But now I don't have to wonder. And I can now understand. And I think that's another way of being kind, Laura, is sharing, disclosing where you're at with somebody so that they know that it's not anything that they need to be concerned about. And I think that's exactly what that staff was doing. I got it. I hear you. I see you. I know you're upset. I know you have questions. I get it. And I'm here to provide the answers. And how many of us do that? One of the things that comes to mind is when I'm working with couples. Uh, Everybody, and I wrote about it in Kaizen for Couples. Book just happens to be sitting by my hand. But what do we want? Every one of us wants to be seen, heard, known, acknowledged, appreciated, and accepted, right? That's what we're longing for. See me, hear me, understand me, accept me, appreciate me, acknowledge that I'm here, breathing. And that's what we're longing for. And yet we get into relationships that maybe have a long-term effect and we start taking each other for granted. And that's one of the ways that we do it is that, well, I expect you to know that, read my mind. Or how many times has somebody said to me, well, you know who I am. You should be able to figure it out. No, I can't do that. You got to tell me. Or maybe I need to give you the space to ask. But that's the important transition time, not just, well, how many people hear that about, well, I love you. I shouldn't have to tell you that. Oh, so wrong. No, tell them. Tell them in every way possible so that they feel reassured because it's kind. Otherwise, they feel in the question. They feel concerned. They may be feeling insecure. They may be wondering. They may be having a bad day and need to know you love them. Something needs to happen.
and here's the gift of being kind. When each of those staff members at the hospital was kind to me, I didn't even have, they assumed what you did. Everybody wants more care and kindness and love and expression of respect and all that. You don't have to tell them tell them. They assumed that I was in a fragile place. I didn't have to express it. I didn't have to say, "Can't you treat me nicely because I'm just all upset?" That meant I didn't have to, you know, spend my energy and waste it on them and have waste their time. They could be doing their job more fully, and I didn't have to get emotionally over tipped. And so they manage my emotions by managing just being kind, you know.
Yes.
Amazing.
And you immediately got it without any words
Exactly.
because probably their body language just oozed that. Even though they're rushing or they're moving quickly, they trained themselves to be present in the moment.
And that's a really good point. It's about training yourself. It's about practicing doing those kind acts and words every time you interact with somebody you love, care about, and even strangers.
Mhm. It absolutely is, but it comes back to something we've spoken of so many times. Who are you? Right? Are you taking enough time to self-reflect and decide how you want to be in the world? How do you demonstrate your values with every conversation, every look, every action? Or are you bouncing around like a pinball in somebody else's machine? Right? You just react and get pushed and all over the place. And at the end of the day, you're completely exhausted because you weren't generating you, you were responding to other people. And that's a choice that you can make.
And it takes something to be able to make those choices. It takes some conscious awareness. It takes the responsibility, as it comes to mind, for your own feelings. It's like, okay, well, I have these feelings. I'm not just trying to push them out there in the world um, subconsciously. Like, if you're upset, it's going to come out one way or another. If you can't be kind, there's something else going on that one needs to take responsibility to resolve, to sit with oneself, to journal, to get help, to talk it out, have a
Yeah.
venting partner, punch, scream, go exercise something, go take a bath, whatever it is. These feelings are there for us to do something with. Their messages. They're really rich if we pay attention to them versus try to push them away. And what happens is they come out in our interactions. They cause us not to be kind. We find no extra access to that kind place because we're so upset and we want to blame somebody else for it because we don't know how to deal with it. But if we did what you're talking about, take time to reflect, we can say, and be more curious about our feelings. We could work through them and figure out what exactly our soul and our emotional being state needs to resolve this. To
Mm-hmm.
what is this? What can I do with this what can I do with this energy creatively that would resolve it or transform it into something else? And that we could probably do a whole nother talk on for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, when, I think about this morning when I went to edit the show, I'm going bright-eyed and bushy-tailed early this morning. I'm going to edit that webinar and get it done. And I open one file and it's this big. I open another file and it's this big. Because the first time I went to record the show, I made a mistake just less than 1 minute in. So I stopped the recording. I failed to start it again. So I got up from my desk after realizing that and answering some Facebook things, and I went to get some water. And I thought, what is this energy? Like, I feel an energy of failure. I feel an energy of mistake. I feel an energy of, um, it was just very agitated. What is it? And I had to flip back because it was at least 10 minutes since I'd realized that I had missed editing the show. And it was that willingness to sit there and recognize I've got my knickers in a twist somewhere in here. What is it? And what's my part in it? And what can I do about it? So I just went back to the computer. I wrote a note to the woman that I did the webinar with. Mea culpa. Here's what happened. I'm sorry. We're doing a webinar every week for several weeks. So can we start fresh with the first one next week again? And then she wrote back and she said, no diva here. Of course, everybody makes mistakes. And that handled it. But what if I'd sat with she's going to be disappointed and she's a really busy person. I've got to ask her and maybe she'll say no, because I had that happen. The other time that I did it, the woman, I wrote to her and said, I'm sorry this happened. And I have never heard from her again.
Mm,
Just no latitude, no words of condolence, no nothing. But handling it immediately, I was completely relieved. Like, no problem, away we
mm.
go. And that was very kind on her part. but I was kind to myself too, because I recognized the energy instead of running on, going on with my day with this horrible feeling. And I think that's one of the things that we always have to do. And we talk about that all the time on this show, as you've got to spend time with yourself, right? You've got to make yourself a priority. When you feel something, figure it out.
Ah, very wise words. Simple, but profound. If we feel something, figure it out. Don't ignore it. Don't try to blame somebody, push it away, project it on somebody. It's about really feeling it and figuring it out. And so, one of the reasons I created the deck of wisdom cards I have, the feminine power cards, I just pulled them out and I randomly, literally picked this card that's so perfect because it talks about our feeling, the feeling of anger, like which you could have been mad at yourself this morning. The people in the hospital could have been mad at any of the patients, guests. And this is about anger. It says, anger is a message to understand your fears and take care of yourself.
There you go. And let's just put another word in there imaginarily on your card that says resentments, anger, fears, and resentments, because we have a lot of resentment and we don't really understand that that's anger in our body
Mm-hmm.
and we keep generating it. So let's add that into it. Would you read it again?
Mm-hmm. Anger and resentment are messages to understand your fears and take care of yourself. Usually there's a fear underneath the anger or the resentment. I'm
Yeah.
afraid that I can't, I don't know how to express myself. I don't, I'm really disappointed over and over again. There's a fear of loss or something going on usually.
Or
What
judgment.
or judgment or there's who knows, you just go sit and figure it out, and
Yes.
really you can do this. It
Yeah, you
really
can.
works if you ask. And sometimes I find myself asking and there's like no obvious answer, but at least I ask the question, like, what is this anger? Just like you did this morning. It's like,
Mhm.
what is this agitation? What is this feeling?
Yeah.
And then let the question linger. Let the answer come to you. You talk it out with somebody, journal it out at some point. It doesn't have to be right then and there. These things don't happen like on demand necessarily. If you take the time though, and at least you pose the question, and maybe you sit and you see if there's anything happening, any awareness is coming to you, either now or in the future. It will come, but asking the question to me is the most important part. The Here's a question to ask. If you do recognize your anger and why you're angry, you can say, how can I channel my anger such that the result is positive for myself and others? So if you're really trying to resolve it, you're getting why you're angry. Now what can you do to resolve it? The question again is more important than the answer.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I really recommend everybody has a pack of feminine power cards. I keep them on one of my halters, and they're very worthwhile and they're very wise, done by the wise Laura Rubinstein. So.
FemininePowerCards.com.
Yeah, I think that understanding that, yeah, I'll take my example this morning. I had options. I felt that, okay, I could have said, all right, I'm just going to go back to work. So I could have stuffed it, or I could have recognized that I'm really going to beat myself up for that. And why would I do that? Or, as actually happened, I went, oh, yeah, I remember I made a mistake. I better own up to it and not let it use any of my energy before I know how to resolve it. But I didn't used to do that. I would just feel badly about myself and beat myself up. Like, "Oh, how could I be so stupid? It's such a simple thing. You do shows 3, 4 times a week. Why didn't you push the button? What's wrong with you?" I mean, you have to watch your self talk. Are you kind to yourself?
Please be kind to yourself. If you're kind to yourself, you'll start being kind to other people too. I noticed that. I used to be really, really, I'm still hard on myself or critical, but I used to be really hard on myself. And somebody said to me, Laura, you could put away the whips and chains on yourself. I'm like, what? I even had to ask, what do you mean by that? Have
Uh,
you
yeah.
noticed how hard you are on yourself? I'm like, I guess, it was like I hadn't even thought about it.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because I certainly had that. But you know what it was? It was my hijackal mother's voice, and I had internalized it and I was allowing it to run. And my fear was that I was going to hear it. And so I was already saying it to myself, right?
Right.
And those are old patterns. Yeah, I'm happy to report that, my mother passed on, I don't know, 28 years ago. And it took me another 5 years after she passed to sort of realize that she was living in my head and on my shoulders still. But once you handle these things, then maybe you rehandle them a little sooner, then pretty soon you begin to bring up the deficit to neutral. Like, okay, thanks for sharing. Like in one of my more stressed moments or whatever, I may be in the kitchen doing something and I will hear my mother's voice going, "You're taking too much peel off those potatoes. What do you think we are, made of money?" Like all of a sudden, like, whew, thanks for sharing, mom. Bye bye. You know,
Wow.
but we internalize those voices and then we adopt them, the ones that we inherited, and we continue to use them. So when we do that work that you were talking about and get some help with these things, and remember, strong people get help, weak people don't. So if you know that you value yourself, then you will get help to erase the things that are not working for you. Like, my clients certainly find that working with me, but I'm sure they find it certainly with you as a hypnotherapist, Laura.
Yes. And the ability to lighten up about this, gain some distance is really, really important. Like you recognize that's your mom. That's great. The other part of this is like when you're interacting with other people, if I'm interacting with my husband and I'm in this and I blurt out something, when you hurt your blurt, like you say, and I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like if I catch it, um, I will either apologize in the moment, or he will like make a joke about it. Like, wow, you're upset. Like he didn't take it on. He's like, not, and it's not a joke to belittle it, but just to reflect back, like, did you realize this? Like,
Mm.
wow. And, like,
But
I'm really
that's real.
grumpy right now. I'm sorry. If we can lighten up and like, it's a good thing that we had such a good time, recently.
But
So,
that's real partnership, Laura. That, when I'm working with couples, often they behave as though they're each other's parents, not their partners. So they want to tell the other person how to do or what they think or how they should think or what they should feel or what they've always felt and they're not allowed to change. But that's not the way partners behave. Partners behave in the moment, like we were speaking of earlier. In this moment, who are you? In this moment, what are you afraid of? In this moment, what do you want? In this moment, what can I help you with? Not anything that's happened in the past, but present. And they allow each other to grow, and they're interested and curious about that growth, and they're willing to support it. And that is one of the big turning points in creating a shift from a relationship that has pretty much come down to being roommates to going back to be soulmates.
mm,
Is that when you do that, you have those three ingredients I talk about so frequently: equality, reciprocity, and mutuality. But if you're just ships passing in the night or you're kind of roommates with benefits, then it's not going to satisfy you on any level, and particularly not going to satisfy your soul.
I love the idea of keeping that curiosity about growth in a relationship. Can you speak a little bit more to that? Like, would be some steps, or make sure you are doing?
Sure. I always tell my clients about that thing you used to see in the police films, that there would be an outline and duct tape or something of a body on the ground. And so a person has a relationship, they get to know someone they think, and they create that duct tape on the ground. And then when their partner wants to learn something new or does something differently, they don't say, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell me what's going on. That's a little different. What shifted in your thinking? What did you learn?" No, they don't say that. They say, "Get your leg back in the box,"
Why aren't you that way anymore?
because I know you. And that's the same thing that happens when somebody in a couple will say to me, "Well, he or she is not the person I married." And I go, "Yay!" And they look at me, right? I said, "Well, are you the 22-year-old that your partner married?" "Well, no." "Well, what's up with that?" you know, you want to be with a 22-year-old who only knows that, right? So it's very important to have this curiosity. And, one thing that I invite my clients to do is don't say, how was your day? But ask, how do you feel about your day?
Mm.
Get a question that has more depth, a question that has more intimacy. I don't want to hear what you did all day and which appointments you went to and how many red lights you hit. I want to know, was it a frustrating day? Was it a good day? Did you feel like you lived your values today? Are you happy? What mood are you in now? Is there some way that I can support you? I mean, that kind of conversation, not a litany of I went here and I went there and, somebody was rude to me and I got cut off in traffic. Okay, if you're going to start there, then you know, how did you respond to that today? But you want to deepen your conversations in the present moment, not the you've always, you never, and you shoulds, because
Mm.
that's putting our partner back in the box and saying, I want to know that I've got you nailed down and I know you. So you stay in that outline and then we'll be good, right? Just get that hand back in there.
And
Um, Go ahead.
if you think about it, wanting to put somebody back into that outline is based upon a fear that if they go out of the outline, something they won't be able to handle it, or there's something going to happen that's not that's unknown. It's about fear. It seems like there's some fear. I don't know. Those are the best.
Change. I mean, first of all, certainly they're afraid of change. Like if you do that and you do it differently and I don't know about it, now what do I have to learn and how do I respond? And I'm uncertain now for a few minutes. But all the research shows that the most creative people are the ones who can live with a little ambiguity. Now, not the kind of ambiguity a hijackal provides in your life. You don't need that. But a little ambiguity. Like you can wait a few days to find out something about your partner. You don't have to text them right away. you know,
Mm.
you can wait. You can watch something evolve. You can see what happens. You can see if they come to self disclosure and say, wow, I wasn't very nice this morning, was I? Rather
Mm.
than getting on the old device and saying, who do you think you are? You talk to me like that, right? No, I mean, we have latitude. Like a relationship is a long term thing. It's not measured by every little moment in every little day. It's what's the pattern overall. And will I trust the other person that even if they say something off or they do something off, I know them well enough that that's not generally who they are. So something's up with them. And I may ask, or I may let it go because they need to rant or vent or do something. But we have this immediacy, and particularly in the millennial world, we have this immediacy. Like, I need to know why didn't this happen? Why is this happening? What did you mean by like and there's no latitude, there's no space to have the relationship. It's just been compressed into the moment.
Mm.
And so those are things that are answers to your question. What can you do? Create some space. Ask questions that are deeper, like how do you feel about your day? Um, do things like that that only you and that other person would probably talk about.
And I find myself wanting to, in general, with people, friends, wanting to process my feelings first before I disclose where I'm at, especially
Mm-hmm.
because I'm afraid I might not be kind, number one, and I may be. I want to avoid projecting. I really want to get the value of what am I feeling. I had a friend who I was very disappointed with, but I had made some assumptions. So I needed to check it out before I email back and, or texted back. I was like, there was someone who said, did I do something wrong? And it was not, it's like, I can't answer that question and I'm not going to answer it over a text. You know, it's like I'm feeling that way, but that doesn't mean they did something wrong. So I like to take a lot of time with myself and give myself the latitude before I
Mm-hmm.
respond. And I also have some boundaries around not discussing emotions over text messaging and email
Yes. Yeah.
messaging. And it's really the kindest thing I can do.
Yeah, high five on that one. I think texting is good for information, factual information, words of love, and little else.
Little
right?
else?
Little
Little
else,
else, yeah.
And I think when people think they're having a relationship over text because they're sending these terse messages that no one knows what they really meant because they can't hear the inflection or see the body posture or watch the face or anything. So you have to make up what they meant. And if you're having a bad day, you'll give it the worst spin. And then there you are, you're off and running. And now we have a text thing and it's horrible. So I applaud you saying, no, we don't discuss feelings over text. I
I
mean,
didn't even respond. I couldn't even say that. I said, what could I say that's going to come across well? It wasn't. I had to wait until in person to like give feedback. It's like, no, I didn't even say it. I just demonstrated like, I don't do this. It's a boundary. You can ask all you want, but I'm not answering.
and that's something we've spoken of so often.
We have.
The word no is a full sentence. Like, no, I don't want to do that. You don't even, you just say that to yourself. No, I'm not going to participate.
Yeah.
That's that. No explanations required, you know? And I don't mean that you're not going to talk about it with that person after you've figured it
Right.
out and maybe find out what's really going on. I don't mean that by no explanations required, but it is quite possible to say no and have it be a full sentence. Like
Yeah.
someone asked me the other day, can you take me to the bus depot at 5 o'clock in the morning? No, no. And I got a text back, after several exchanges, and the text said, well, can't you inconvenience yourself for one day?
No.
No. And I wrote back at that point and I said, it's not an inconvenience, it's a choice.
Yeah. And making those choices are okay. And by the way, if anybody has questions or you want to chime in on your experiences, feel free to do so in the comments. I am monitoring them. If you have questions for us privately, you can message us here at Transform Your Relationships. Or you can go to either one of our website. We've got forrelationshiphelp.com is Dr. Roberta's site. Put that up here, forrelationshiphelp.com. And great place to ask questions, get a consultation with Rhoberta. Transformtoday.com is also a way you can contact me through my website or here on the on Facebook. So where would you like to leave this kindness conversation?
Well, I would just like to put a word to it in front of it, and that a couple of words, the power of kindness, right? That makes you
Extraordinary.
powerful. And I think your experience is really a powerful one. Like you were bathed in kindness when you were feeling fragile.
It was
Like
such a
what
gift.
kind of a gift is that? You
Such a
know?
gift.
Yes. And so what if you could, not you, Laura, but what if everybody could, if I could walk around just giving the gift of kindness? A kindness can be a smile, to somebody who's not smiled at. You walk down the street, what's the look on your face? Are you deep in thought or are you actually seeing other humans? Or worse, are you walking around like this? I had a woman walk toward me the other day and she was on her phone and she was just bent to where she was going. She was right in my path. And I just stood still and I watched her. She's coming right at me. And all of a sudden, I guess she saw my feet, and I was stepping to the side. And I thought, you're not even aware of what you're doing, where you are in space, the people around you. You're probably going to complain that you don't have any relationships, that you didn't have any human contact today, and yet you have better relationship with your digital device than you had with any human in the last hour. Like, it's not that we need to be with a human every hour, but what are we doing with these devices?
Mm.
I was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art a while back, and I'm in this beautiful Greco-Roman hall with things that are so ancient and tall, tall ceilings full of artifacts. And I took a photograph because my eye was caught by three 20 somethings, 18 to 25-year-olds, sitting on a bench, all of them on their phone. And I tried to calm myself by saying, oh, they're accessing an app that tells them about the artifacts. But I knew very well they weren't. And we miss life when we are not present And we can be kind only when we're present.
Right. So give yourself the present of presence and be
And be
kind.
kind to yourself. Yeah. Yeah. And as you so wisely said, when you're kind to yourself, it's a gift you'll have to give. But you can't give a gift you don't have. So if you're not kind to yourself, you're constantly beating yourself up or making yourself wrong. That's pretty much how you're going to show up in life. Or if you don't show up in life like that with other people, you're going to resent them, like you said, with your wonderful feminine power card.
Yeah.
So lots to think about today.
It was a great conversation. I hope it's inspired more people to be more kind. And thank you for joining us. And feel free to watch the whole thing if you've just joined us. What a rich conversation about kindness. It really, truly is powerful, transformative, and you can create the life you want simply by instituting a lot of, this intention of kindness. So see how you do. Let us know.
Absolutely. And stay tuned with the comments below. Put your thoughts there, and we'll always go in there and respond to you too.
Yeah. So we'll see you in a couple weeks
Yes.
again.
Goodbye. Be
And
kind.
be kind. Have a kind day. Have a kind bar. Bye for now.